Hello and welcome to our today's commissioning video with our GEN24 Plus hybrid inverter and the LG RESU FLEX battery system. Today we are going to show you how to commission these two components and how to do the commissioning on the system. First of all, let's start with the LG RESU FLEX battery system. First of all, you can install the system in two ways. First of all, like we have it here, it is a floor standing system, so you can place it directly on the floor of your house. Second up, you can also install it wall mounted, so that means that you bring the modules to the wall and can install it, for example, in a garage, also wall mounted. Very important, as we see it here, the system, it has 8.6 kilowatt hours of usable capacity, and depending on how many modules you are using, you can install it at the given capacity, so you can choose freely how much capacity you want for your system. Second up, we have of course our GEN24 Plus hybrid inverter, and now the hybrid inverter is of course the heart of the solution. The hybrid inverter now has a DC coupled battery storage installed to it, so that means LG RESU FLEX is a high voltage DC coupled battery, and that means minimal losses and a very high efficiency in the process. So that means especially for PV storage systems, that means that you get most out of your PV battery system. And second up, we have of course our Fronius smart meter, and the Fronius smart meter is now our bidirectional meter, and we use that to get all the energy measurements and all the energy flows within the system. So with the help of the data of the Fronius smart meter, the Fronius GEN24 Plus knows when to charge or discharge the battery to keep an optimal performance. So as you see, these three components are important, and also for the installation process there are some tools that we recommend you. So first of all, we have a Torx 20 screwdriver. With the Torx 20 you can install the GEN24 Plus device, and then we have an Modbus 5. There we can install the LG RESU FLEX at ease. And furthermore, it is always good to have a flat screwdriver, a flathead screwdriver, and with that you can install the neutral contactors on the Fronius smart meter, as well as the data communication ports on the LG RESU FLEX system. So for the first part, let's start with the commissioning process, and there we are going to show you how to commission the battery system and the GEN24 Plus. So first things first, we want to do the commissioning on the LG CAM system, and therefore to enter the battery system we want to remove the cover. Therefore the first cover can be removed by putting the black cover aside, and then we want to remove the main cover from the battery management unit. Therefore we are just drawing on the cover to the right and can remove it from the battery system. After that, the first thing that you want to do in here is to remove the cover for the circuit breaker. Very important, please make sure whenever you are working on the battery system, please make sure that the DC switch is powered off. So that means that there is no current on the battery system, and that means that you can safely work on the battery system. So after making sure that the circuit breaker is being in off position, after that you can use your Modbus device and open up the cover for the DC and data communication area of the LG battery system. After removing the screws that you can see here, you can remove the cover. And down below we see here the DC communication, so the DC cabling of the battery system. You have two minus poles and two plus poles here. And in the middle you can see the protective earth communication cable. So therefore all we want to do is to cable now the battery system, and therefore we take our screwdriver and do the cabling on the battery system. So after installing the DC cables to the battery system, you can go with the DC cables through this PG clamp here of the right hand side and then exit the battery system on the top. So here you can put your cables on the top of the battery system and directly go to the PV inverter afterwards. So second step is now the installation process on the GEN24 Plus device, and therefore you take your screwdriver, your Torx screwdriver, and you can open up the two screws here at the bottom of the device. After that, you can remove the top cover of the GEN24 Plus. And second thing is to remove the .com cover of the GEN24 Plus, and you can do this with 5 screws around the cover. So these are all fast locking screws, so therefore all you need to do is a 180-degree screw to open up the cover. Inside the GEN24 Plus device, you can see on the left-hand side the DC connection area. So here we see there are already two DC cables installed for a PV generator. So in this case, we can see here PV1 and PV2, where the DC connection is installed. In the middle of the device, you can see the .com area, the data communication area, where we later on want to install the LG battery to the inverter. And on the right-hand side, you can see the AC connection area, where you can install your AC grid to. So on the DC connection area, all we want to do now is to install the battery cables, and therefore you have 2 specific communication ports, 2 specific connection ports. We have here the battery plus and battery minus connection port. And with the DC cables coming from the battery system, we now go into battery plus and into battery minus, and we close our clamps, and therefore the DC connection to the battery system is already finished. Yeah, second up, next step is then of course our data communication to the GEN24 Plus, and therefore we start again with the data communication to the LG battery system. So for the first part, we want to install now our data communication line between the GEN24 Plus and our Fronius smart meter to detect the energy flows inside the system. First of all, for our data communication, we start here at the Fronius GEN24 Plus data interface, and therefore we have our data plug that we can release from the GEN24 Plus by plugging it out. Very important for the data communication, we need a Cat5 or Cat6D cable to do the data communication between the Modbus lines. Please note, whenever you use such a cable, make sure that the cable pairs are being twisted and that you can have a data shielding on this cable line. Whenever you have a shielded cable, please make sure to ground the shielding of the cable, and with us you can do it directly with the shield contact here on the data manager plug. Yeah, for the data lines, you find them of course directly, the wiring scheme, you find it in our quick start guide, and as well we are showing you here in the video how to cable them. Yeah, first of all, we start with our Modbus 1 contactor, and with this Modbus 1 contactor we are going to the Fronius smart meter directly. On the data plug you can find here the Modbus 1 Plus, so M1 Plus, and therefore we install the contactor to M1 Plus. Second up, on the back side of the cable switch, we can see here now Modbus minus. There we are installing the second cable to it. And then for finishing, we have our ground contactor, and therefore we are using the ground cable for the third pin of the Modbus communication. Yeah, then for the shielding of the cable, we have here unmantled the shielding, and then we go to the contact shield. You can read it on the plug, and then we are going with the cable plug direct to the shielding of the cable. Yeah, when you have your cable connected, you can then directly plug it back in to the GEN24 Plus device, and therefore the Modbus communication to the GEN24 Plus is finished. Very important, for every Modbus communication line you need to do the termination resistance on the GEN24 Plus, and therefore you have 2 possibilities here. We have Modbus 0 and Modbus 1. In our case, we installed the Fronius smart meter to Modbus 1, and therefore we want to make sure that the termination resistance is being switched to position 1, and therefore that means that the termination resistance is active and the 120 ohms resistance is active to terminate the line at the GEN24 Plus, which is our endpoint of the system. Yeah, second on, we then go with our data communication cable to the Fronius smart meter, and at the second point you can now see here the Fronius smart meter, which sits at the feeding point of our system. Yeah, for the installation of the Fronius smart meter, you see your three phases, so phase 1, 2 and 3, entering the component at the top side, and at the bottom side, the three phases are leaving the component again. Yeah, furthermore, you have two neutral contactors, so please make sure to also install the neutral contactors to the device. And furthermore, you can use that in an electrical cabinet, just use a protective earth contactor to install also the protective earth cable. Down below, you can now see here our data communication plugs. And with these plugs, you can install, first of all, our data communication coming from the GEN24 Plus, as well as with this little cable bridge that we have here, you can install the 120 ohms termination resistance. So as we have the communication from our GEN24 Plus device to the smart meter, we need to set the termination resistance, and therefore we are setting this contact between 7. Here on contactor 7 there is the 120 ohm resistance active, and we need to set the cable bridge to contact number 9. Yeah, and then for the Modbus communication we are again using our data plus, data minus and ground cable, and therefore we are starting with the contactor number 8. This is our Modbus Plus, also our M Plus cable. We are installing it to this one. Second up, we are installing to the cable pin number 9, we are installing our M minus cable coming from the GEN24 Plus. Together, please note that, together with the termination resistance, so this cable bridge goes into the contactor number 9. And then the last contactor, it is contact number 10. This is then our ground contactor going to the Fronius smart meter. So as you see, whenever you have ready the 3 pins, this is then our data communication, and at the last point you can also set down our cable lugs here, our little plastic covers you can set to the Fronius smart meter to finish the installation on the Fronius smart meter itself. Yeah, after that we are going forward with the data communication from the GEN24 Plus to the LG battery, and therefore next step is to watch the data communication to the LG battery system. Okay, so now our second step is the data communication between the GEN24 Plus and the LG battery. Therefore we are going to start at the GEN24 Plus, and with our data communication web interface we are going to start here with the plug again. So for the data communication between the GEN24 Plus and the LG battery, we again need an extra Modbus RTU cable, and therefore we have again our 4 pins, data plus, data minus, ground, and extra to that we need a 12 volt plus 12 volt cable. This is an able 12 volt that we need extra to the Modbus communication for the data communication between the inverter and the battery. Please note, and this is really important, especially for the LG battery, we need to unmantle the cover, the shielding of the cable, and bring this shielding to ground potential. And since there is no possibility to do this in the LG battery, we need to do it here in the GEN24 Plus data communication interface. Yeah, you can see this pin also in the quick commissioning guide, and also we are showing you here in the video. And for that we are going to start with our first pin, and this is in this case the M0 Plus, and therefore we are going to start here with the yellow cable with the yellow pin into the M0 Plus. And on the other hand side, when we turn around the plug, we have here the M0 minus, and therefore we are going to install the second pin into the M0 minus. Yeah, last but not least, we have our ground connection, and therefore we are going to ground at the last pin. So the third pin goes into ground. And really important, again, now we need the shield contactor, and we can bring the shielding of the cable direct here to our shield contactor at the GEN24 Plus data communication interface. Yeah, and last but not least, we need our plus 12 volt signal coming from the battery system. And therefore we have here our volt plus symbol, and therefore we are going to install here our plus 12 volt pin into the data communication interface of the GEN24 Plus. Yeah, after installing all these cable, all we need to do is plug back again the plug into the Gen24 interface. And last thing that we want to do inside here is the termination resistance, the 120 ohm termination resistance. And therefore, since we installed the smart meter to MB1, we now have installed the LG CAM system to MB0. And as you can see up below here, we have a termination resistance, we have this little dip switch, and therefore we need to bring the dip switch into position 1 and activate the MB0 communication, and therefore activate the 120 ohm resistance here at the Gen24 Plus. Yeah, after that we go with our data communication cable further to the LG system, and therefore we can do the data communication direct in the LG. Yeah, therefore we are finished with the Gen24 Plus installation, and for that we can install the data communication cover back on again. Therefore we again need our Torx 20 screwdriver, and with our fast locking screws we can close down the cover again to make sure that the connection area is properly closed again. Yeah, and last but not least, we can place back the cover of the Gen24 Plus to the device, and again with the fast locking screws we can make sure that the cover is set in place again. Yeah, and when we are finished with the Gen24 Plus device, we are next up going into the LG CAM system, into the LG FLEX system. And here we have now our data communication cable coming from the Gen24 Plus device. We are going through the connection area, and down below here we now see our 4 cables. We have data plus, data minus and ground connection, as well as our 12 volt enable contact. And down below here you have a little symbol list of where you can plug these contactors, and therefore it is very suitable to have a little screwdriver where you can open up the contactors directly in the LG system. Please make sure you can also find this plug list in the commissioning guide, as well as we showed you here in the video. Yeah, so first things first, what we need to know is the communication port number 1. This is for enable ground. We are starting with this one first. So plug number 1 goes to enable ground. We can install it here. Second cable then goes to enable 12 volt. So this is now our 12 volt cable coming from the Gen24 Plus, and this in the LG system is plug number 4. So we are installing the 12 volt cable to plug number 4. And then 2 are left, and therefore we have plug number 11 and 12. And 11, plug number 11, is then our Modbus minus. So M minus contactor, and then the last one is our Modbus plus contactor, and this is port number 12. So with that we have now finished the data communication to the LG, and as you see, really important, we have now here 2 things missing. First of all, we have no possibility to install the grounding of the cable, so no shielding contact in the LG. Therefore, it is very important to install it directly in the Gen24 Plus data communication web interface. And second up, we have no termination resistance directly here, so no mechanical, no physical dip switch or anything in the LG system. This is because we are activating the termination resistance directly in the RESU monitoring app. And this brings us to the next point. We want now to start with the RESU monitor app. And before we do that, we can close down the cover. This is also very important, to close down the .com cover so that no electrical harnesses can be occurred during the installation process. So when we have now finished the cabling, we close down the cover, and please make sure to close all the screws that you find here to make sure that the cover is properly secured. And if you want to, you can instantly bring on the back cover back on the LG to close it down. But please note, this switch should left open because you need it furthermore in the installation process. So next point is then of course the commissioning process directly in the RESU monitoring app, as well as the first commissioning of the Gen24 Plus in the Solar.start app. So for the commissioning step, we are now starting with the LG RESU Monitor app. So this you can please download from the App Store, and therefore you see on the left top side of the screen the RESU Monitor app. We instantly start up the RESU Monitor app, and therefore if you haven't already, please create an account where you can log into the RESU Monitor app, and if you're already registered with an account, you can directly sign into the system. After signing in with your credentials, you can then start a new installation. So up here you see installation, and then you click on new installation. After that, you can click to new device. And after that, either if you are in European country or non-European country, in our case we are choosing European country, we agree to the warranty conditions of the LG system. Then we click on confirm, and after that to the point next. Yeah, after that you can give a name to the system. So in our case we call it LG system. And then we are entering our email address. Yeah, after that we are putting in the address where the system is installed. And after that we can choose a country where you install the system, as well as the city where it is installed. After that you can enter your zip code, your postal code, and then you can enter a phone address. After that you can click on next and forward with the commissioning. Yeah, then we have here a little device information of the device that you want to install, and second up you choose a device model. So in our case, of course, we want to install the RESU FLEX system, and therefore we're opting out for the model RESU FLEX. At the second step, we now want to scan our battery modules and the battery management unit, and therefore we go down below to the point scan the QR code. And therefore we can open up the camera system, and as you see here we have now the battery system, and at the front side of the cover we have here the QR code for the battery management unit, and we are going to scan this QR code. Then we click on the pack part number and click to add. And then we want to scan the first battery module. So this was the battery management unit. And after that, we are going to scan the battery module. And you can find these QR codes on the top right side of each and every battery module that you want to add to your system. When you have scanned the QR code, you can click again to add. And finally, our last battery module we want to add here, we're going to scan the last QR code of the system. And now we can close this procedure by clicking add a last time. And then we have scanned all the QR codes of our system. Yeah, finally we can close this tab, and then we see 3 different QR codes that were being scanned, one of the battery management unit and 2 parts for the battery modules. When we have finished that, then we can click to next. This point comes available, and after that we can forward with our settings. Yeah, second important point is done the inverter type, and here we can select the brand, and of course we are selecting here from the list Fronius. After selecting Fronius, we can click on next, and the second big point is now to connect to the web interface of the LG battery system. And therefore now the important part starts. We are going to connect the circuit breaker, and we're going to switch on for the first time our battery system. And please make sure to not activate the battery system before this step, but first activate it to activate the local Wi-Fi access point. So therefore we are going to start the battery system. We are switching the switch to on position, and then you can also see down below the LEDs are blinking, the LEDs are shining on, and therefore the battery system is activated for the first time. Now the battery system also opens up the Wi-Fi access point, and we can then connect to the Wi-Fi access point by clicking on the button turn on Wi-Fi. The app will send you then automatically to the Wi-Fi settings of your system. And then we can connect to the so-called SSID of the LG system, and it is always called RESU _ and then the serial number of the device. Please make sure to note down the serial number of this device. So in our case, it is DC03987AF36A. And this code is very important because for the password of the local Wi-Fi access point, we need to note down the last serials number of this device and add the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 to it. So whenever it is calling you a password to connect to the local access point, please type in the DC03987AF36A. Please note this code is linked to your system. So in your system, this code will be different. And then add the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 to it. And this is the password that you need for the local Wi-Fi access point. Yeah, in our case, we were already connected to this system and therefore the password is not longer needed. But in your case, you will enter the password to connect to the local access point. After making the connection to the battery system, we then re-enter the app, the LG RESU Monitor app. And after that, we can connect to the battery system. After connecting to the battery, we can click the point Next. And we get a success information that we are now connected to the battery system. Yeah, later on you can download also firmware updates. So herefore you can download all firmware update for battery management system, for the RMD, for the DC and DC converter. So therefore if you want to do updates, you can instantly start the update from here. In our case, we are now clicking on Next and skip this point. Further on, for the warranty extension, you can also connect the LG battery with the internet, and therefore you have two possibilities. You can either connect it over an Ethernet connection or an Wi-Fi connection. So for example, if you want to connect with the Wi-Fi connection, you can click to Wi-Fi and then connect your battery with the Wi-Fi settings. After that, you can also select the RMD settings, and therefore we are selecting a time zone and of course an inverter type, so in our case Fronius. And then for the communication type, we are now want to set the termination resistance for the battery system. And since we install the battery system with the LG battery at the endpoint, so in this case with the termination resistance on at the battery system, we are now selecting here CAN RS485 terminal register to on position. And now the termination resistance is being set to on at the LG battery, but please keep in mind, depending on how you install your system, you need to set the termination resistance here to on or off, depending on your installation. Yeah, after that we can click the Save the Settings to the Battery button, and then the settings are being loaded to the LG battery system and being stored there. Yeah, after that we get a success mail, so that the change has been successfully done to the battery system, and after that we can click to Next, and then we get the overall information about the whole system, and there you can check if you have configured everything correct. And after that, the last step is to terminate the connection with the battery, and as soon as you click to that, you re-enter the Wi-Fi settings and therefore can, for example, enter your local Wi-Fi again to end the connection to the battery system itself. Yeah, after we have updated and commissioned the LG battery system, the next point now is to update and commission the Fronius GEN24 Plus device. And therefore, to commission the Fronius GEN24 Plus device, all we need to do is to put on AC power on the device. As soon as you put on AC power, the device will power up. And therefore you have two status LEDs, and left below you see this inverter is in standby, and the right LED is now the communication LED. And when you want to access the local access point to the inverter, all you need to do is to click on the button in the middle, one short click, and then the Wi-Fi access point starts to blink on the right hand side, and therefore the Wi-Fi access point is open and you now can access the inverter over your mobile phone with the Solar.start app. Please also note, when you first power up the AC on the GEN24 Plus, it takes some time until the inverter drives up, and therefore it can take some time until you can access the Wi-Fi access point. Yeah, as soon as the Wi-Fi access point is open, you can go back to your mobile device and start the Solar.start app from the App Store. And therefore you can go in the Solar.start app to the point Start Installation, and then you can select your Gen24 Plus device from the list that you see here. Furthermore, the system lets you know that there are software updates and firmware updates available, and if you haven't done already, please make sure to always download the latest firmware update for your new device to keep you up to date. In our case, we are now skipping the update, and we are then searching manually for the Wi-Fi settings, so we can either scan the data matrix code on the right hand side of the device. Therefore, you can just scan it to connect to the access point, or you can also do it manually in the Wi-Fi settings, what we are doing now. So we are searching here for, in this case, Fronius underline and then the serial number of the device. And the password to connect is always the same. It is always the number count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So with this password, you then can connect to the Fronius inverter. In our case, we were already connected to the Fronius inverter, and therefore the connection is established automatically. After doing the connection to the inverter, we can then enter the Solar.start app again, and then the inverter is being searched, and after that the commissioning process can start. The commissioning process itself consists of 3 parts. So first of all is the network connection, second up is product, and third up is solar web communication. Yeah, let's start with the network communication, and therefore in the network communication you have to set your first password for the inverter, and this is the customer password. This password is being used for the end customer that he can do local settings on the inverter. First of all, you can give your system a name, and in our case we name it the Gen24 Plus with LG system. Yeah, second up you can choose a time zone. So for our time zone it's Europe and Vienna, and then after choosing the time zone we click on next, and in this point we agree on the terms and conditions to use Solar Web as an online platform. Yeah, third point is then bringing the inverter online, and therefore you can choose between Ethernet and Wi-Fi, and therefore in the Wi-Fi settings we can of course choose from the list of available Wi-Fi, and in this case we are choosing here the end customer Wi-Fi. So for example the network that you will find at the end customer's place where you want to connect the Gen24 with, and then you're just typing in the Wi-Fi password that you get from the end customer, connect the Gen24 Plus with the local network. After that you get the success mail that you are connected to the Wi-Fi and connected to SolarWeb, and after you get these little checkboxes you can click on next. Yeah, that's for the network commissioning, and second up is the product commissioning, and when we click to product we can now type in the technician password, and this password is then used for you as an installer to get access to previous settings and important settings of the inverter. Yeah, then we can add components here, and as you can see now we have a PV generator, so we can add the nominal power of the PV generator installed to the inverter. We can add a very important Fronius primary meter that we need for our battery system, so we need to add the primary meter here. And third, you can then add a component and just add the battery system here from the list. Yeah, and then you can choose from this list which battery system you want to add. In our case we are choosing the LG RESU FLEX. And please also note that you can here either manually or automatically add SOC limit mode, but we recommend you to stay on automatic. Furthermore, you can also allow battery charging from other generators in the home network, and therefore this is a very convenient feature of AC coupling other producers in these local networks. So for example, when you have a second PV inverter in the system, or a small hydropower plant or a wind turbine, and you want to use that energy in your battery system, you can just add up a maximum charging power from AC source, and therefore you're just putting in the maximum AC power from that device, and therefore you can start or use the production of this component without direct data communication to it. So this is a very convenient feature. Furthermore, you can also allow battery charging from public grid, so this comes into play when you use our time of use functionality and want to charge or discharge the battery system to specific times. Yeah, then you just click to add, and then the LG battery system is already added to the system, and afterwards you can click to next to save these settings. Yeah, furthermore, you can also use function and IOs for backup power or load management, and of course our export limitations. If you want to know more about these functionalities, please check out our other webinars and trainings on the first commissioning on the GEN24 Plus products. Yeah, last but not least, you can click on the Solar Web button here, and therefore you can implement your GEN24 Plus device to Fronius Solar Web to have monitoring and visualization within the system. After that, the first commissioning is finished, and last but not least, the most important point is to turn on your DC switch on the GEN24 Plus device. So at the end of the commissioning system, the GEN24 is commissioned, the LG battery is commissioned, and last but not least, you are turning on the DC switch to on position to activate the system and to start operation. After that, the GEN24 Plus will power up and connect with the LG system and start the operation of the overall system. So this was the commissioning process of the LG RESU FLEX with our GEN24 Plus hybrid inverter. The battery system is now finished commissioned and can be processed with the system. So I hope this was informative for you. I hope you are now ready for your next commissioning step with the LG system. If you want to have more information about our various products and solutions, please check out our YouTube channel, our Solar Energy YouTube channel on YouTube, and make sure to find there our newest how-to videos about different products and solutions that enables you to forward with a fast and easy commissioning process. So, thank you for your participation today. I hope you had fun and see you the next time here at Fronius. Goodbye.